And welcome to the 12 Minutes of Heaven we call the D1Baseball live stream. It is Game 2 of the College World Series Finals. I am Michael P. Rooney, joined by Aaron Fitt and Kendall Rogers and Martha the cell phone. We are all here on the stream. Gentlemen, good to see you. It's Tuesday. How we doing?
Doing great,
Awesome.
Roots. Doing great.
Good to see you. It's disappointing not to see you in person, but hey, we had a good run. Eventually we all have to leave Omaha at some point, unless our name is Kyle Peterson. So one of these days I will get to the finals. It's on the bucket list. Dare to dream.
Have you never been to the finals?
Never been to the finals. Never been.
That's bonkers.
It's got to change.
ACC let you down, Runes. I think you got a bone to pick with those guys.
I will say I had so much fun working for the ACC network. It's a bunch of rock stars. Kelsey Riggs, superstar. If she was a stock, we should all be pouring money into it. Danny Graves was amazing. I'd never worked with him before. He was awesome. Like the most humble, big time, big leaguer. Aaron Katzman, Danny Presser. The ACC network was really awesome. It was super fun. So, hey, before I forget, boys, let us thank our sponsor. Our sponsor in the postseason is our good friends at Wilson. And again, Wilson, it's the best brands in baseball, all under one roof at the Omaha Experience. My bucket list item is getting to the College World Series Finals. Everyone listening, your bucket list item should be get to Omaha, period. It was really cool. They had limited edition, never before seen products. And think about all these brands: Wilson, DeMarini, Louisville Slugger, Evo Shield, all of that stuff in the Omaha Baseball Village. So these guys continue to dominate the baseball space, and we are really thankful for their support in the postseason here. So, gentlemen, let's do this. Let us recap last night, Game 1, and then we'll get to Game 2 predictions. So, Game 1 was wild. It was a game of a tale of two cities, if you will. The first inning, not so good for Hail State. And then the rest of the game was kind of what you'd expect of a College World Series final. So, Fitzy, let me start with you. Give me a takeaway from last night.
Yeah, it was just anticlimactic. It felt like the game was over after the first inning. And, if you're down 7-1 against Jack Leiter, I mean, it's just kind of like, okay, let's look to tomorrow. I mean, you give State a lot of credit for the way they battled. They didn't, like you said, I mean, they patched it together. I think they allowed one more run the rest of the way, right? With that bullpen, just kind of running guys in and out, which in that respect, it was similar to what happened against Virginia. The difference was that the hill was just too high to climb versus Virginia. They're down 4. But in both cases, MacLeod just gets jumped and he just couldn't find the zone early. He's walking guys, hitting guys, and a couple of hits. And then before you know it, it's like, man, this game is not in good shape for Mississippi State.
Yep. KR, what were your takeaways from last night?
I think my biggest takeaway is that if you're Mississippi State, I actually kind of feel like you feel pretty good going into today. I was just on a Mississippi radio show a minute ago saying, like, if you were Mississippi State and you're playing Vanderbilt, you much rather them score those 7 runs in the first inning than, let's say, score those 7 runs in the 8th inning. So I think Mississippi State kind of had an ability the rest of the game to kind of recalibrate itself a little bit. They played good defense. They pitched pretty well the rest of the way. And they actually had pretty good at-bats. Like, it's not like they went out there and just kind of like threw in the towel and had some terrible at-bats. I mean, they made Jack Leiter stress a little bit in a couple of those innings there in the middle. So I actually feel like, the momentum is pretty even. Like, I mean, obviously there's pressure because you're down 0-1, but if you're Mississippi State, you feel pretty good, with the way the last 8 innings went in that game.
Yep. That's awesome. Hey, by the way, Kendall, I want to comment. Todd Treble has a great line over there. So Kendall, you can pass on this, but I thought your point that you said with the open mic was actually an awesome point. That is when people.
What did I actually? So was it my comment about he answers baseball questions really well?
Yeah, if you give him like a sentimental, like softball, not well thought out question, he punts immediately. But if you give him a good baseball question, he'll sink his teeth into it. Who were you coaching up? Or can you not reveal who you were coaching there?
They were just comparing notes. He was sitting next to me.
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
we were just comparing notes. There were a couple of questions that I thought were just very bland for a guy like Jack Leiter. So just trying to coach people up indirectly.
And I love Jack's presence in the post game too, because if there's a question that he's not really interested in, or a question that just misses, he's just like, he doesn't bother trying to give you some nonsense answer. He's just like, all right, I mean, like, let's move on.
But go ahead.
Yeah, if you ask him, like Kendall said, I mean, if you ask him about the craft of pitching, that's where you can get him going, and that's why. Like
Yeah.
I spoke to him earlier this year. We had a great conversation because we were just kind of, drilling down into, all right, I've noticed your curveball now. It's gotten a little firmer. The shape is a little changed. Like, what have you been doing differently? And he'll kind of break it down with the mechanical things, and he kind of sacrifice some of that 12-6 to try to get a little bit more bite on it, or this or that. And it's just he's great with that stuff. He's very, very insightful and analytical when it comes to the craft of pitching.
Yep. Hey, and it's buyer beware too. Like Chris Budden is as good of interviewer as we have in our sport. And, Jack is kind of like, bobbing and weaving with Chris Budden. So it's like, for all of us, like if you're going to ask Jack kind of a throwaway question, that he again, he's going to be respectful because he's a great kid, but he's not going to answer a fake, a thoughtless question. That
Right.
Yeah, and at this point, can we stop asking him about his dad?
Yeah,
I think Al would even agree with me on that one.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. All right, boys, before we do the predictions, I want to kind of throw something a little heavier out here. So there's no coaching staff in America I have more respect for than Mississippi State. I love these guys. Chris Lemonis, Jake Gautreaux, Cheese, Scott Foxhall. These guys are awesome. And they're a big reason why Mississippi State's here. I got to tell you guys, if Mississippi State doesn't win this national title, the decision to start Christian MacLeod, I think, is going to haunt these guys for years. And I want to say it this way, I can make an argument that Mississippi State is not in the CWS finals without Christian MacLeod. I mean, think about it. This guy was so good that he was their Friday night guy all through SEC play. And think about how thin the needle was for Mississippi State. If Christian MacLeod's not really good in the first half of the season, maybe they're not a top 8 national seed. Maybe they're playing Notre Dame and South Bend, and maybe they're not even in Omaha. I mean, as we've learned year over year, these margins are so thin. I will say it also this way, even though I was critical of the decision to start MacLeod, and I'll say why in a second, there wasn't a great option, right? Like, you were going to have to be really creative to not start Christian MacLeod. Jackson Fristow, clearly not the answer. He's been spitting up the bit for a while now. He's a freshman. Again, this is a long season for a freshman, right? And so I get that. The gamble was going to have to be go bullpen game in game 1, and then go Harding, by the way, on short rest, and then go Bednar, by the way, on short rest. So again, I'm being critical of the decision. In all fairness, there was not an obvious answer. You were going to have to really think out of the box, and think about how uncomfortable that is to think really out of the box for your game 1 starter in the College World Series finals. But here's the difference, guys, and then I'll get your thoughts. I thought Houston Harding looked really tired against Texas, but he was really competitive. Like, he was fighting, but not sharp. I thought Christian MacLeod against Virginia just looked like, hey, I'm done. I'm not sharp. I'm exhausted mentally and physically. But Mississippi State was able to pull that game out almost by miracle. And so maybe I could see where Chris Lemonis talks himself into starting MacLeod again. But, ultimately, it cost them the game and may cost them a national championship.
So my feeling on this is a little different. I just think their best bet was to try to start MacLeod and see what they could get out of him. Now, they were working between starts. I mean, he and Foxhall were really, trying to figure some things out. They thought they'd figured out something with the breaking ball or whatever. And I just think you have to roll the dice because you're so strapped on the mound. I mean, I know that they've got depth and they can mix and match and do the staff day thing, but if he can give you 5 innings, man, it just changes the whole complexion of the series. I think you have to roll the dice and try for that. You just need to be ready with a quick hook. And I don't think they were ready early enough. And I get it. Like, it doesn't send a good message if you send a bunch of guys running out to the bullpen after he hits a guy and walks a guy, but you kind of had to be ready, to pull that trigger a little sooner than they did. And that was, I think, where they got hurt.
Yep. I think it's fair. Kendall, any thoughts on that piece?
Well, here's my thing on Christian MacLeod is if they're going to win the series, he would have had to throw at some point. You might as well start him in the first game. And like this, I guess is a bad way to say this, but like at least kind of get it out of the way. Unfortunately, he gave up 7, he didn't give up all 7, but he gave up several runs, and it really hurt him. But he was going to have to pitch at some point. So it's either he throws in the middle of today's game or he throws in tomorrow's game or whatever. But he was going to have to throw at some point. You might as well just get out of the way and try your hand that first game.
Yeah, and I could see that point, Kendall, where like Mississippi State's lowest percentage game in the series is rested Jack Leiter, right? Because Kumar Rocker's going to have to throw on short rest, and he looked pretty gassed against NC State's skeleton crew last week. So I can see that part. I felt when I watched Christian MacLeod throw against Virginia, I watched him and I'm like, man, he's just done. And again, first year in the rotation. That's a long year. Christian MacLeod's never thrown anything near this type of workload, and he's been brilliant for a good portion of it. I just felt like he was done, and I'm probably being a little overly harsh, but hey, there was no great option. It was which roll of the dice do you want to go with? They went with Christian MacLeod. It didn't work out, and hey, here we are. So let's fast forward to this matchup. So we're going to have Christian Little versus Houston Harding. Fitzy, why don't you kick us off? What do you see in game 2 here?
Well, it'll be interesting because, we're probably going to have to see a lot of that Mississippi State bullpen once again, just like yesterday, just like again, the Virginia game, they're going to have to piece it together. Cause I don't know how much you can really ask for from Harding on 3 days rest. Right. I think it was 82 pitches, if I'm not mistaken, on Friday. And like you said, I think he's probably feeling some fatigue at this point in the season also, but the guy can really pitch. He got that really good changeup. He's got that break ball you can flip in there. He'll spot up a little bit. And, when he's on, he'll be firm enough, 89, 91, something like that. So, he does really give them a chance. If they can, I think if they can get 3 or 4 innings out of him, you're probably feeling okay. And then, we've seen it, they have the bullpen depth. If you're going to win the national championship, you just need heroes to emerge. And some of those guys in the middle, they've been doing their part. I think Mississippi State has done a really good job using the depth of their roster, as far as, pinch hitting and pinch running and defensive substitutions and also just the depth of their bullpen. Whereas a lot of teams, their staffs contract this time of year. Mississippi State doesn't really have the luxury of contracting their staff. They kind of have to use the depth. And if they're going to win this thing, that's the ticket. Those guys just need to do what they did last night. They went up there and put up some zeros. So Little is for me is kind of an X factor. And Kendall, I'm curious what you saw from Little last time out against Stanford. Certainly the stuff is there. The talent is elite. Yeah,
there's no doubt. I'm kind of going back to even the SEC tournament. His slider in the SEC tournament was really good. The fastball velocity was anywhere from 92, 95. And, we'll see, he's young. We'll see how he kind of handles this big stage again in the second outing here in Omaha. But, I like Mississippi State in this game. Again, I thought that the fact they were able to kind of stabilize everything the rest of the way in yesterday's game kind of gives them I wouldn't say momentum's the right word, but gives them a pretty good feeling going in this game. And I think they'll find a way to force a game 3. And if there's a game 3, I'm guessing we'll see Kumar Rocker against Will Bednar, which to me, guys, I would rather see that matchup be, even if they can go three or 4 or 5 innings, I'd rather see that matchup be what ends out the college baseball season than Houston Harding against Christian Little.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'll tell you guys, to me, the key to tonight's game is the Mississippi State position player group. That's really the biggest advantage, I think. You could say Mississippi State's bullpen is a big advantage, but I do feel like Vandy's position player group, just even last night, that 7-run first inning, guys, there's one hard hit ball. One. It's 2 walks, 2 hit by pitch, a ground ball in the 5-6 hole, Isaiah Thomas getting fisted into and he jobs a ball into left field on a breaking ball. Now again, him and Rodriguez fought with 2 strikes, which is, that's to their credit, but those balls are not laced. And then Gonzalez gets into a ball. So I still am waiting for the Vanderbilt position player group to emerge, and they just keep not doing it. So Christian Little's 17 years old, very talented, but Mississippi State's position player group, that is their advantage tonight. And maybe I should say it this way. That's their advantage in the first 6 innings of this game. And they need to assert that advantage. They need to capitalize on that. And so, boy, I'm really curious to see how that part of it plays out. Hey, we need to make predictions, don't we? Do we not? Are we predicting?
Yeah, Kendall made his just now. He's taking Mississippi State. Ruins. What do you got?
Taking Hell State.
What do you got, Fitzy? Oh, did you pick Fitzy? Or you went?
I did not. First? I'm trying to pass the buck.
I'll go Hail State. I'm going to go Hail State.
Yeah, you know what? It just feels like it's going to be a 3-game series. So I'm with you guys. Hail State, I think it is. It just feels like this team is too They're too tough and they're too resilient to get swept, even though I still feel like the deck stacked against them a little bit, even on the mound, because, we saw Maldonado get extended a little bit last night, but Vandy still has, McIlvain and Murphy in pretty good shape there in the bullpen. On paper, I kind of feel like maybe the edge still goes to Vandy, but I just, this is a vote of confidence in Allen and Jordan and, all those veteran guys, and also just the, the fans here. I will say this, for what it's worth, I thought it was a real party atmosphere around the ballpark, even after Mississippi State lost. Like, all those fans were still out there rowdy. And I heard, middle of the night, a loud, Hail State chant from the all the stuff outside. And it's just like, they're still ready to go. And I think Mississippi State will feed off that. And I think they'll find a way to get one today.
Yeah, they got to get that crowd going early. That's the key. Get those people lathered up and get them going. So love it. Gentlemen, well done. As always, have enjoyed all of the writings from Omaha. It's been super fun. A lot of great stuff. And that is it. Have fun tonight. Enjoy the game, everyone. And we will, we'll see. We may or may not catch you tomorrow. So that's it. Have a good night, everybody.
Thanks, guys.